So the vector for that is going to be, and I wish I could tell you it's going to happen in the next 6 months, but it's probably going to take longer than that to get out. The vector for this is going to be a server appliance, if you will, that where you are effectively running this guy in the global zone, and then you're pumping out zones that look like however you want to look like. And then you can run it, you can kind of run it however you want to. The other thing that I want to do, ultimately, in the fullness of time, I do want to open source all this stuff to allow you to run it yourself. But I wish I could tell you that yeah, I'm sorry. And I would like to do it. It's just that the business case isn't quite there. And it would be expensive for us to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. With the 7000 series, you mentioned that you mostly did it for the NAS market. Have you considered getting the 7000 to be SAN capable for FC?
Yeah, you bet. When we first released it, we had iSCSI and NAS, but I'm not religious about this. I think that people, in terms of, there was a while where it was kind of like NAS versus SAN was kind of a religious war. I've got no dog in the fight, so I want any protocol you want to be able to access the box, we should be providing to you. So to that end, actually when I'm not here, when I'm not responding to Doug's emails, what am I doing? I am working on the FC target, which we will ship in our Q4 software release. Q4 is calendar Q4, so that'll be under the tree this year. Christmas present from Fishworks is going to be the FC target, and boy, it's given me some complicated emotions, I have to say, because I say that I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm always kind of a bit of a NAS guy. You know, I think that there's a bit of a kind of a Unix mainframe kind of a NAS saying, I think a little bit, and I've always been like, well, you know, especially with the observability, I love being able to see the file. I mean, to me, the reason to use NAS is because I can actually see what files are being accessed, right? But God damn, is FC fast. I mean, it is. I see the appeal. You know, that now that we got it working, it's like that, because unlike with Gig E, where the hardware offload is a really complicated operation, doesn't always work. It's got a lot of problems. I mean, it's the strength of IP. It's dynamic and so on, but you absolutely pay a performance penalty for it. No question. And on FC, it's static. It's a pain in the ass to configure. It's a little more expensive. Blah 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 blah. But when you got all that done, man, it's a champ. So we're pushing tons of bandwidth through FC, so we're really looking forward to bringing it to market. And you're going to have all your analytics, too. So you'll be able to look at your FC operations by offset, by latency, by initiator, and so on. So yeah, if you've got more details on that, see me.
So as a follow-on to that, how about FC over E?
FCOE. Boy, normally that's like, is QLogic or Cisco paying you like $500 to ask that question? I would put FCOE in the IP over FC bucket. And I think I'll leave it at that. I think I'll just leave it at that. I think I'll just put that one out there. Next question. Okay, interesting. Well, so with FCOE, so I do think I guess I'm not going to leave it at that. I do put FCOE in the IP over FC bucket. In that, I think that it is something that we can do, but I don't see it making economic sense. If FCOE did not require a switch upgrade, then sure. But like, you got to do a forklift upgrade of all your switches. I mean, of course the vendors want you to do it. It's like the vendors are like, man, I got to go remonetize you. It's like, what's this verb, remonetize? I don't think I like this so much. Right, because they want to go in and replace all your infrastructure. But to me, FCOE, what I see with FCOE, I see the economics of FC and the unreliability of Ethernet, which is not a really good combination, actually. And by the way, 10 gig, Ethernet got a bit too good of a brand name in the 100 meg to 1 gig transition. Because from 100 meg, we all saw 100 meg to 1 gig, and when 1 gig came out, it was first optical, right? And it was optical for a year or two. But then good old 1000 base T came out, and I got my good old Cat5 cable, and I can still make the cables myself, the way God intended, right? And everyone's like, so everyone thinks like, oh, that's Ethernet. Ethernet is, I wait a couple of years, then I can use Cat5 cable. And that was not a correct inference. That was false deduction. Because from gig to 10 gig, you ain't doing that over Cat5, ever. That's physics. You're not doing it over Cat5. You're going to do it over, people are like, oh, but you're doing it over copper today. It's like, yeah, do you have one of those copper cables? You're like, I mean, it's a garden hose, right? It's an IB cable. And that's what it's going to be, by the way. That's what it's going to be. The cabling, like your 1 gig, your Cat5 cabling is not going to your high bandwidth computing ever. So the idea of, I think Ethernet gets romanticized Because yes, the ports are cheap. The ports are cheap because it's not optical, right? It's like it's a freaking RJ45 jack. You're not doing that ever, ever, ever with 10 gig. It's either going to be optical or it's going to be garden hose. To me, Ethernet, once you give up that kind of bias towards Ethernet, it kind of loses some of its romanticism. It's not the 100 meg to 1 gig transition was cheap. 1 gig to 10 gig, I don't think so much. And then you start looking at other technologies like, well, as long as the cabling is going to be optical or garden hose, then IB starts to become more interesting, right? IB is kicking the shit out of Ethernet from a bandwidth perspective. We're already, QDR, we're already at 40 gigabits per port. And 10 gig is struggling to get 10, right? What's that? And 80's coming. 80 is coming, and we're going to 16 gig FC too. And Ethernet is stuck at 10 gig. We're going to 40 gig. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. When are you doing 40 gig? Oh, 18 to 24 months. 18 to 24 months, by the way, do you know what 18 to 24 months means? 18 to 24 months is just like, I appreciate that you think this is a problem, but I have no intention of dealing with it in the foreseeable future. 18 to 24 months. 18 to 24 months, my friend, because you can't see that far into the future, I don't think, unless you got, it's certainly not on a NIC. So that to me, actually, has anyone here deployed FCOE? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Is anyone here, do you have it in the lab at all? Are you looking at it? Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, so anyway, we'll see. If FCOE does become an issue, we're ready to go. Because to me, I am not in this, I'm not going to be religious about bandwidth. So if FCOE, I don't see how it can happen, but if it does happen and FCOE becomes, the economics make sense and everyone's going to FCOE, we'll go to FCOE inside of 4 weeks, because I got all the infrastructure to do it. I got the target done. I just don't want to ship it because I don't want to support it, because I don't want to have to deal with a 5% performance regression on FCOE when there are no hands going up on people using FCOE. So, all right, that's enough said about FCOE. Other questions? Super. Thank you so much for your time.